Japan Journal, the internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan. Japan Journal with Mal Adams.
All right, Japan Journal with Mal Adams coming to you live from beautiful downtown Kakigawa City in the Media Arts Lab of Totan Communications Company Limited's Media Production Studios in Shizuoka Prefecture, situated in the middle of Honshu Island in the center of the Japanese archipelago. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to our live special streaming cybercast here on the internet's most popular social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Google+, and many more in the coming days and weeks ahead. First up tonight, and this is a special breaking news report, we're here and rather happy and pleased to report that Japan's Nissin Foods Group has pulled an animated advertisement following criticism that it depicts the tennis star Naomi Osaka with pale skin. Ugh. No melanin in her skin, according to the advertisement. Now, Osaka has a Haitian father who's also Haitian American and a Japanese mother. And the firm, which is one of her sponsors, says it deleted the commercial from its website on Wednesday night. Now, Nissin says there was no intention of whitewashing, but they will pay more attention to diversity issues in the future. All right, this comes on the heels of many complaints from African Americans living in Japan here, and other Americans who are fair-minded in the interest of justice and lack of discrimination and lack of cultural misappropriation, as this issue is what it has been boiled down to. Basically, those are key issues in my opinion. We're not dealing here with white supremacy, white racism on black and brown and yellow people living in America. No, America is a slave state, born as a racist state. Let's not get it twisted. This is cultural misappropriation because Japan, being an island nation, homogeneous, largely 90% of Japanese heritage, culturally, racially, ethnically, and everything else, who tends to appropriate things as an island nation from the outside world, bring it back into Japan and make it palatable, appealing, and interesting to their own people. The commercial in Japanese, in the culture of the highest new popular art form, anime, recently, which has taken the world by storm. Even American kids are watching it, and with subtitles or English narrations over it. This was a commercial sponsored by a major product maker of Japanese noodles, cup of noodles, who took this young lady on as a sponsor because they were proud of her, they loved her, and were just enamored by the fact that she chose Japanese nationality so that she could perform on behalf of the country of her birth. She left when here, she's 3 years old now, but she's a child of a black father from Haiti and who is now an American citizen. So I suspect Naomi-san has dual nationality, as do my kids, by the way, born of a Japanese mother, and me, your brother Mal, as an African American father. Okay, so we know what these issues are, but living here in Japan 43 years almost on this side of the question, I can bring sense to the issue. This is not a matter of white racism as we are experiencing it to a great extent under the leadership of number 45 back home there. Not talking about that, but yet and still, Brother Mal's role, as is the role of other gatekeepers and issue watchers, observers, as a journalist and other people, writers, we're taken aback by this issue, would find it offensive on the one hand, but we do understand it. So we're not cutting anybody any slack here, and we're not selling out or being apologists for the Japanese cultural misappropriation of this young lady's image. What we're telling you is that what's important for us to do, to keep it 100, is to call out these people and educate them about their lack of sensitivity for diversity, racial, and cultural issues, which this young lady represents, at least 50%. They call her half. They call all children born of international relationships in Japan, whose one of whose parents would be Japanese, half, meaning they're half Japanese. I say no, don't call my children half, you call them doubles. We speak English, we speak Japanese, the mama's Japanese, the daddy's black, twice more than what your kid is as a 100% so-called Japanese person. That's a misnomer too. Japanese, the indigenous Japanese, a blend of Polynesians, Chinese, Korean, and the whole thing, if you look at it historically, but they have a pride. Japanese are more nationalistic than they are ethnically racist. All right? Let's not get it twisted. So, here's the issue. Nishin says there was no intention of whitewashing the issue, but they will pay more attention to diversity issues in the near future and in the future beyond. Okay, so fine. We accept that. That's a good thing. Now, the commercial featuring Osaka as an anime character triggered controversy after it was released on January 11. I think I have a picture of that image right there. There it is. Look at that. Wow. Did they not appropriate that young lady's image? That's a black sister with a fro playing for Japan because she was born in Japan, like my kids and kids of thousands of other African Americans living here in Japan. Picture on the left then is what is depicted in the anime, and we have a little footage of that. We'll share that with you. But critics say the commercial deliberately depicted Osaka as a pale-skinned woman. Nishin says it decided to take down the ad following the controversy and a request from Osaka's agent to do so. Now let me just add here, I was about 10 minutes away from calling Nishin to just say, hey, get it right, let's talk. I'm bringing my mic and my camera crew down here, and we want your side of the story. We want your comment. We want to hear whether you understand and realize the faux pas that you made. We call it a cultural faux pas. I've done this. If I've done it once, I've done it 10 times. Recently, in the recent past, Obama was depicted by a monkey as a political character talking about change. You know, it had a little monkey standing up in front of a crowd trying to sell some kind of cell phone products, etc., etc. The community rose. We formed a group and went down and, as I have established CNN in Japan for 10, 30, some 30-something years ago, went to the office and said, look, I need a camera crew and a correspondent here to cover this story. We have a comment that we want to make about this misappropriation and depiction of Obama as a monkey. That's historically racially offensive, and it needs to come down. Now, prior to doing the press conference with CNN, I wrote the letter to the head, the president of that particular company, and told him, look, I'm going on CNN tomorrow. I want you to talk to me, give me your side of the story, and explain to me whether this was a mistake intended or what, misunderstanding or what, and that we think, members of the African American community in Japan and abroad, think you need to pull that commercial down because it's wrong.
Japan Journal with Mal Adams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to this edition of Japan Journal, coming to you live from downtown Tokyo. We're in the CNN offices here with representatives of the African American community in Japan to deal with the issue of racism. Obama being portrayed as a monkey. Stick and stay, don't you dare go away, coming at you live right here from www.downtown.japanjournal. Don't miss it.
The mobile phone commercial begins with the crowd rallying behind an inspirational speaker. Supporters hold signs that read, "Change." The company E-Mobile says it's a nod at the worldwide popularity of U.S. presidential candidate Barack Obama. But here's the problem. The speaker at the podium is a monkey. This group of mostly African Americans who live in Japan could not believe what they were seeing on Japanese TV.
They were totally inconsiderate of the cross-cultural faux pas that it represented.
People's minds should be more open as world citizens.
The ad has outraged this group and people in cyberspace. Charges of a racist Japan dehumanizing a U.S. presidential hopeful.
You trying to tell me nobody between its inception and the result said, whoa, hey guys.
Not really, actually, to be honest, at that time. But now, of course, we know. For that,
The president of E-Mobile insists the firm simply had no idea. He points out the company's mascot is a monkey, an animal revered in Japan and used in previous E-Mobile ads.
when they saw the idea the first time, it's like, hey, this is actually, you're copying this idea from the presidential election in the US. And they said, yes, but you know what? But that's how you make a presentation, how you make, an impact. So we thought it was quite interesting.
Good day, everyone, once again, and welcome to this edition of Japan Journal, coming to you from Tokyo today, the Internet's #1 online cybercast from Japan. Today, we're pleased and honored to be in the presence of the CEO, president of E-Mobile Company, Mr. Eric Gan from Hong Kong originally, but here representing E-Access Corporation to discuss the matter on the table today. Welcome. Thanks.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Please pardon my voice.
Good. As I said, sounds sexy.
Thank you very much. It's been a long.
You should have every good day.
It's been long. First of all, I just want to thank you very much for giving us your time. It's been kind of a whirlwind 3 or 4 days since this situation happened. I have described it to my viewers. The issue stemmed from the commercial which your company put on to advertise your new product with a monkey and depicting or portraying Obama-san. Now, we've heard that there was a lot of thinking behind that. Initially, just give us your summarization of what happened and how you reacted and what was the reasoning behind your reaction.
Yeah, we actually, every time when we have a new product launch, when we have a product launch, we ask our advertising agency to come in and give us the best ideas, how we deliver the message or deliver the product to the media, to the customer. And this particular advertising agency, they actually brought this idea up and saying that that's the most effective way to make a speech right now, and that's very popular in the US, which is done by the Obama for the presidential election, which is not a person who just stand and make a speech. He's a person with a crowd behind, holding the board, saying something and deliver the message to the media, to the audience. And we thought that was actually pretty effective. Now, when we actually look at that idea, of course, that because the idea came from the skill set actually came from Obama for the presidential election. So we asked them whether you can check whether we can broadcast this in Japan. Are we violating any legal issue and all that? And then, of course, they checked there's no legal issue. One thing we did not check, because being very ignorant in Japan, that we haven't checked the cultural issue.
Yeah.
But since we are only broadcasting this commercial in Japan for Japanese consumer, so we actually overlooked some issue which we should have done. But then we find out from your emails that is a very big cultural issue, and we stopped the commercial immediately within 24 hours. And that is actually quite painful because we're in the middle of our sales season, summer sales season. We just pull everything, and then.
Okay, so I found out there's Japan African American, what was it?
Friendship Association.
Friendship is that still going?
We just had our 25th anniversary, and you can see my keynote speech online on my Japan Journal blog.
Fantastic.
For that, yeah.
Okay.
And there are a lot of interesting cross-cultural stories that come up through that, so you can pick up some information from that. But we're probably about 26 years now, that might be last year, 26, 27 years. A place for African Americans particularly, but not exclusively.
Okay.
To come and join camaraderie, cultural exchange, a vehicle through which we can disseminate and educate Japanese about our culture, music, or what have you, in American history, and gain their support in promoting positive images. And then we have a problem of some a need in many cases of dispelling some stereotypical images that were inherited
Okay.
from post-World War II. So.
Okay. I'm going to ask you about those images in just a bit.
Okay.
I want to just finish up the story on the Obama.
Yes.
Okay. So they contact you.
Yes, I was called by many
And,
people. Some of the calls went thusly. Now we got to do something about this. My daughter, we're traveling on the train, and she sees this picture of a monkey selling this cell phone, and he's acting like President Obama. And
Not president yet.
President to be Obama at that time, but candidate Obama, and there was some confusion on the part of the double child.
I see. Okay.
Well, you know, why is that? Why are they copying Mr. Obama? You know, so one parent expressed his outrage through the confusion it generated in his child, and created some issues for him to explain, why this would happen. You know, that was one side of it. The other was just another in a series of kind of issues that we would have to deal with. Which are never very heavy and never things that we can't overcome, but certain things that would behoove us to deal with before it becomes something that is an interference with our gainful pursuit of employment or establishing our identity here in Japan.
So what do you do? So you've heard all these stories.
Yep.
They're saying do something. So what did you do?
First, I question it as a journalist would and say, well, is this person just being ticked off, or what's behind it?
Is it a legitimate complaint?
Is it a legitimate complaint? I haven't seen the commercial. Let me investigate it. So when I saw the video, I said, aha, this is not good. That's my initial reaction. Well, my second reaction, as I continue to analyze it, as a journalist would, is to say, well, why could this happen? And what I came up with, well, it could happen because of lack of awareness and understanding about the cultural insensitivity that it represented in the eyes of resident foreign Americans in general and African Americans in specific. Okay. And I say that because it was beyond just being black in Japan. It was about being an American in Japan, because this guy was the potential next leader of the United States.
All right.
In the midst of that euphoria about him, right? Then my third analysis went to, well, there's a business reason for it. And what is the business reason? This guy is generating all kinds of interest around the world, and to tie this icon or mannequin or caricature that represents the company prior to the Obama campaign, it didn't just come up. The monkey has been their mannequin, so to speak.
Was it?
Yes, it has been. It was prior to the Obama euphoria. The monkey has been the campaign marketing.
Of E-Mobile.
Yes. And the reason that was because of the love and the appreciation and respect for animals in Japan, particularly the monkey, as I described earlier. He has an image of being a clever, intelligent animal that's very funny. There have been television shows that use trained monkeys, and they're high ratings and stuff, so it's a positive thing. And for them to use this and have this animal do human-like things to promote their product makes a lot of sense and generated a lot of revenue for them as a marketing tool.
Sure.
One more point about this business aspect of this thing. The rival company of E-Mobile also had a dog, which was a member of the father of a family that included a black guy and a Japanese woman. It was a crazy company.
What is the company that you're talking about?
I'll get the name to you.
Okay.
It's another mobile phone company or a telephone company. So it was a rival company to this business, and the use of the monkey was designed to offset and compete with the dog commercial, which was going through the roof as a very popular commercial in Japan. So that preceded this. And then, as another step in the rivalry and the campaign battle, the monkey can do change. We were training to do that, and they did, and that's what resulted in them using the Obama image.
Tell me what other kinds of monkey commercials there were with E-Mobile. So if they were using the monkey before Obama, how were they using it?
Imitating, having the monkey doing, maybe go shopping or something like this. I can't call specifically, but they use him in many ways. And it wasn't just the mobile commercial. There are monkey shows. There are programs that feature the monkey taking a little kid to school or going shopping for a housewife or something like that. So there are many uses of the monkey image and its activity as a trained animal to touch the heart and mind of Japanese. So generally speaking, things along those lines. Okay. So all right. Nothing that sticks out as a misuse of the, the monkey in terms of what he's being portrayed Obama. Okay. Yeah. So.
And okay, so you're fielding these thoughts.
So I came up. Yeah. So it occurred to me that it was significant enough, and the disgruntlement on the part of resident African Americans and other Americans was significant enough for me to intercede and intervene with whatever I could do. And the journalist in me says, just go straight to the top and see if we can get some understanding. So I sent an email to the company president and told him of the situation. The reason I'm calling is because I'm getting calls and there are people concerned about the negative portrayal of the beloved candidate Obama's using this monkey. And in the cultural context in America, there's a history of racist history of using caricatures about black people. And anybody who's aware, globally, internationally, is aware that this would be an unwise thing to do. So we're wondering why, if you had the knowledge, first of all, if you were aware of it, then why would you allow it to happen? If you weren't aware of it, you need to be aware of it, and you'd be advised to get it off, because it could be a disservice to your company image if it continues to go viral on the internet as it's been doing.
So at that point, you're sounding like you're helping the company out.
My function is always to blend and balance here. That's my role in Japan. I'm not here to represent any one particular part. And the objectivity I'm trained to elicit. And, as a journalist, there's always been that approach. I'm not pointing a finger. There's enough people wanting to do that who are not willing to recognize the other side that led to this happening. So I'm giving this guy an out. He said, explain yourself, but do the right thing, and let's get this thing off the air. That would be my suggestion. Because my intention is to go public with this issue to represent the disgruntlement of the African American residents here in Japan on the CNN Global Network tomorrow. And he read the letter and pulled the commercial. Really? Almost like that, yeah. Within 24 hours.
What did he respond to you?
It's on the interview, and I'm going to, for my Japan Journal, I'll insert a segment of this for this particular thing, but basically he explained to me that whoa, 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 whoa kind of thing. We had no clue. As president of this company, that was something that was charged to his creative people, his commercial people, using an outside American or Western ad agency's office in Japan. And I immediately called the headquarters of the ad agency in London.
What ad agency?
I'll come up with the name later. I'll give it to you. Can't think of it off the top. But they're New York based, but the headquarters is in London. So I just contacted the representative in London, and he says, oh, no, that decision was made locally in Japan. I said, okay, we'll check it out, but if it was launched in New York or in the United States, you got a problem.
That's right. Really?
And they assured me there would be no problem. They had nothing to do with it. It was a Japanese creative staff situation. I said, okay, fine. Good to know. We'll get back to you. That was his story, and he stuck with it, and nobody's offered any. They took the fall. The local creative people here in Japan.
So they finally admitted that it was their idea?
Well, there was no question about it, that the idea was presented to the management of the mobile company. They come up with the concept, and they said, how's this? And the company, the president, the guy immediately said, yeah, this is great, because it's a great way to get a message. Obama's he's doing very well with this style change, and we're trying to change your, support of this opposing product, change to our thing, let's go. Riding the coattails of the Obama mania, right? Great business decision, but just wrong content, that's all. So my intention all along was to get some understanding and try to distinguish the motive from something that is overtly racist in the traditional sense of the United States or the West, and something that is more rooted in cross-cultural misunderstanding, ignorance, unsophistication, lack of awareness of foreign things and foreign cultures, unless it behooved them business-wise to be aware of it. And so I'm doing them a favor by saying, bad business choice.
Right.
Understand why, you know.
Right.
And let's move on. So that's what happened ultimately.
Okay.
Then we went on CNN with it, and it went viral again with all kinds of responses.
So you still went on CNN?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Because I've been trained never to suppress a story if you got one, right? So that was the deal. That was my intent initially, and I told them that I was intending to do this whether they gave me an interview anyway. So my appeal was I'd like to talk to you one-on-one from my Japan Journal blog and allow you an opportunity to discuss this and there's some mitigating things that might gain understanding and keep you from falling out of favor with your American counterparts who reside here or globally for that matter, because it is in fact a global village now,
right?
Given the media, the mass media, and the internet.
I mean, that's the big message.
That is the big message.
Yeah.
The discourse in Japan is no longer relegated to Japan only. So it's a media thing, it's a communication thing, basically, and it's a cross-cultural communication issue. And it's a learning moment for all. That's the end of it all. I mean, that's the bottom line. So now, all of a sudden, because of this issue, we learn to understand each other a little bit better through this cross-cultural exchange. You know, which is why I use the word photo.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think that the Japanese company learned?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the tuition for that lesson was millions of dollars because they were in the midst of a national campaign where this commercial was being played nationally and they pulled it. So it cost them a lot of money. It was painful, which you'll hear on my interview with the president of him admitting to. He said, we just took the hit because we would rather not air and offend anybody from our poor choice and misunderstanding. We'll pay the price for it, which they did. It cost them a lot of money. But so that was a big lesson they learned, yeah.
Right. Okay, let's put it this way. If there were no such thing as the internet,
Right.
and if you had just said, I am a resident, I represent these African American residents in Japan, and we African Americans living in Japan and other Americans living in Japan find this offensive, do you think you would have pulled the ad?
No.
Okay.
I think you would have said, well, that was not our intent, I'm sorry, but
Too bad.
thank you for the information, and we'll remember that in the future or something like that, and that's, they would just establish that there was no intent to offend
Right.
at a crucial state.
Okay.
So it was definitely the power of the media and the power of the press. As a journalist, I've used it throughout my career,
Right.
and it worked in short order this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about
That's
that.
why I get the calls, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. That's why you get the calls, because they know that you're a media person.
I'll go global overnight with a press conference or a media producer, so I can get the message out. Yeah.
So as somebody who's very media savvy, global media savvy, what was the threat to the Japanese company? What did they fear the most about this going global?
Being misunderstood and being misconstrued and getting an image, getting a negative image from something that was not intended to offend. And through his explanation of this, I trusted him, I believed him, and I think the message got out. If you look at my blog, you'll see different reactions from people who observe this and say, the guy's blowing a lot of smoke at you. They knew this all the time. But I'm telling you, the interesting thing about it was the guy who was in charge of the company was a Hong Kong Chinese guy who was very fluent in Japanese and had done business in Japanese and was promoted to this position by a Japanese chairman who was educated in the United States. So the upper echelon of management really didn't manage it or have hands-on in the campaign. They left it to middle management people, apparently, who were Japanese, who took it and thought it was a great idea.
Right.
And only until we made an issue of it did they say, oh boy, we blew it.
But actually, even if it goes global, tell me how that affects them in terms of business, because their business is in Japan. So why would it matter that there's global censure?
Because of public sentiment, because of imagery, and you don't want, even though they're not selling anything globally necessarily, they may in fact have it. It's still the power of the press, the power of public sentiment through the media is significant enough to affect the image of the product or the acceptance of the product. Particularly when you tied it to somebody, it was really not so much the global media, it was the largesse of the guy, Obama, who was doing all the big, generating all this attention globally.
Right.
And so it was much not wanting to offend him or people who supported him, as well as the global access that this thing has. I don't know if anybody in Africa heard about this,
Right.
but certainly in the United States and Europe, particularly in the United States, and you don't want to offend the Americans, I think.
So it's still this notion that America and the opinion of America is powerful in Japan.
Extremely.
Okay.
Yeah, no question about it.
Because that's what this, in some ways, boils down to.
Yes.
So if this were, say, the Netherlands, I don't think they might not have changed.
America's the number one media nation in the world, right? So we drive that. So they play into that. They copy it. This is part of them emulating America, the media promotions and campaigns. That's what got them in trouble. So they picked the wrong connection.
Right. So it is partly the power of America that we're talking about here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Part of the power of American public opinion. No question about it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
For them to suddenly realize beyond their wildest imaginations that the discourse in Japan could be judged by the American public.
Right.
And to a point where it had an effect, it had an impact, it had a meaning, significant enough meaning for them to change their ways. Yeah.
Do you think at all the Japanese government got wind of it? Could the Japanese government have pressured this company to pull the ad?
No, they didn't have time because I wrote the letter hours before they pulled the commercial.
All right.
So it was pretty much,
So
by his own admission, it was a letter that I wrote. I was the one that got into him. The letter got to them, and they made the decision after they realized the impact of it. Because I gave enough evidence of how this thing was generating negative opinion for them. And as someone who's involved in professional corporate communications guy, public relations guy, profession, I gave him the benefit of my advice.
Yep.
On the one hand,
Absolutely.
as a gesture. On the one hand, a business thing.
Yeah.
Wrong choice here, right? Number two, as an African American representative of a lot of African Americans, foul. Number three, as an educator, there's a better way. And you need to be aware of the unsophisticated, ignorant mistake that you made because of your lack of awareness of the cultural sensitivity regarding this thing. So it was a three-pronged kind of thing, multi-thing. We're just not pointing fingers here. There was a moment it was a chance for me to educate a guy who, through his marketing, had an opportunity. Of course, then at the end of the day, and on camera, I believe, I wasn't being cheeky. I said, you should have asked me. I could have made a better commercial for you. That's the business guy in me, right? So
why not? Maybe the last one.
Yeah, exactly. We'll probably be getting called in the future. what an opportunity, right? to make a buck. But no, that clearly wasn't my motivation.
Yeah. But question, did they ever use the monkey again in future ads?
The monkey continues to be there as far as I know. Their thing is just particularly banded with this particular scenario.
Well, after my letter, they jerked the commercial. I'm not bragging on my power. I'm not flexing anything. I'm just saying this is what we do here in Japan to keep it 100.
Then we find out from your email that is a very big cultural issue, and we stopped the commercial immediately within 24 hours.
All right. So, like with this one, it was headed for that kind of thing, but they took the action immediately after Osaka's agent ordered or requested them to do so. Now, the group says it didn't want the issue to affect Osaka's activities as an athlete, and that was a good judgment. Okay, so it was certainly headed in that direction. Now, we don't want to bring any undue pressure on the sister. She's getting ready to take over her second Grand Slam down there in Australia, and I'm all for her. She's the pride of the world. Not only here in Japan, we're not going to let Japan appropriate her culture and misrepresent it, although we admire the fact that they have taken her in and she is loved by these folks. Now, they're getting used to this because previously in Japan, a young lady from Nagasaki, a daughter of an African-American brother and a Japanese sister, beautiful woman, knocked off the Miss Japan title. Boy, she was highly melanated and peta, fluent in Japanese, nice cultural, cross-cultural mix. But it kind of outraged a lot of people who couldn't wrap their mind around Miss Japan being a black sister.
Ariana Miyamoto says in her native land of Japan, most people see her as a foreigner.
My appearance isn't Asian, but I think I'm very much Japanese on the inside.
Miyamoto was born to a Japanese mother and an African-American sailor who left Japan when she was a child. In Japan, she's called a hafu, or half-Japanese.
I don't think the equivalent word for hafu exists overseas, but in Japan, you need that word to explain who you are.
In pictures from her childhood, with a friend, on the volleyball team, and in middle school, Miyamoto looks happy. But she says she was constantly bullied and called kurombo, the Japanese equivalent of the N-word.
I didn't cope at all. I didn't tell my parents or my friends. I was the type to just keep it inside me.
After 2 years getting to know her dad in Arkansas, Miyamoto returned to Japan and dropped out of high school. Then one day, a close friend who was also mixed race killed himself, inspiring her to find a way to speak out for other hafus in Japan.
Miss Nagasaki.
At 20, Miyamoto became the first half-black Japanese woman to be named Miss Japan. Many cheered, but some Japanese complained that she didn't deserve the title. I don't mean to discriminate, one post read, but I wonder how a hafu can represent Japan. Another person expressed surprise, tweeting, "I didn't know Miss Japan doesn't have to be pure Japanese. What a shock."
What does it feel like when you hear from people that you're not Japanese enough?
I ran for Miss Japan expecting some criticism, so it wasn't such a big surprise for me. But of course, those kinds of comments don't make me feel good, so I try my best to turn them into positive motivations.
How much does Japan embrace diversity?
How should I put this? I think we have a long way to go.
In Japan, immigration is restricted to a trickle, and fitting in is often preferred to sticking out.
The general feeling here is that we as a nation have a lot of virtues and social cohesion because of homogeneity. The reality is, over the last 20 years, there's been a doubling of the percentage of the population that's foreigner.
Japan's government says just over 3% of children born here every year have a foreign parent or parents. And in this crowded country, this minority is starting to stand out.
Hafus are showing up on TV and in ads.
We're in Shinjuku, the busiest train station in Tokyo. And when we look up, this is what we see, a Japanese-Italian model advertising for a Japanese department store. She's the face of a campaign, placing importance on Japanese traditions, and she's only half Japanese.
Ian Herman is a hafu whose father is American. Teased as a kid, he turned to rap music. Now 16, he's just signed on with Sony Music in Japan.
It's fine to be different, and as long as you have your own pride, then no one can stop you. Girls love the hafu, so no, there's nothing wrong with that.
He says it's cool that Miss Japan is a hafu too, because she shows Japan can appreciate diversity.
We're all the same people, and we just grew up in Japan, so why not be called Japanese?
Miyamoto may be making the biggest strides for black hafus by challenging the widespread view here that lighter skin is more beautiful.
I don't think much has changed, but in the future, I hope to see Japan more like America, where mixed-race people are commonly accepted.
Do you have any advice for other young people who are feeling like they're not accepted because of their mixed race background?
I want them to think it's okay to be who you are. There isn't another you out there, and it's no fun when everybody's the same. So I'd like for them to believe in themselves and don't care too much about what other people say.
You know what I'm saying? So, look, the world is changing. Japan is changing. They were closed for hundreds of years to the outside world. Look it up. They were pressured to open those doors, you know. So they're sensitive. They have reason to be sensitive about people coming in here and trying to change their culture. But a lot of that is inevitable, as what Donald Trump is trying to do, build a wall. Let me see you build a wall on the shores of Japan, as it is an island. Keep them folks out. You may be able to keep out some immigrants, but you ain't gonna keep out no tsunami. We're gonna leave that in the hands of the Father of creation. All right, justice will be served. All right, let's take a look at the videotape, and I'll narrate as we go. Check it out. Okay. Superhero. Now, the fellow here portrayed is one of the top male Japanese tennis players. And he and Naomi Osaka team up to conquer the world through tennis. That's my interpretation. There she is on the right. There he is getting ready to win his battle. And she morphs into superhero. Boom. Beautiful animation. That's what Japanese do. But the tennis scene, right? Alright. Shout out to my man Andrew Will, who bringing this to me first. You know, he notified me. Alright, here she comes. It's Naomi. Blowing up now. Getting her power on. The fro is there. You got the fro right. But she ain't melanated, you know what I'm saying? Boom! Come on, Naomi. Wait a minute. I'm trying to be a white girl. That ain't right. Look at this. White girl. You know, nothing wrong with her being white in the mind Japanese. High yellow or whatever. Nishin. So, compliments to them for understanding the faux pas. That's a mistake of culture and sensitivity. And we ain't mad at it. Get it right. You live and you learn. That's our job, to show the way and protect the truth. All right. That's going to do it for this breaking bit of news here on Japan Journal. We will see you down the line for the next full broadcast of the #1 English language online cybercast from Japan Journal, with yours truly, Brother Mao, and we're out.
Japan Journal, the internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan. Japan Journal with Mal Adams.
This has been a special broadcast breaking news from Japan on Japan Journal, the internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan, with your host Mal Adams, broadcasting and streaming over the popular social media platforms on the internet through the global news network CNN. No, GNN. Thank you.